So we've come down to London today for a very special product release, something that I know you've all been waiting for. It is the Nikon D850. So we're going to take a walk inside the Nikon school and have a conversation about the specs and just go from top to bottom. They can tell us what it's all about. And then we've got something very special for you coming up on August 23rd when we come back here and we actually get hands-on and we shoot some photos. So 4 weeks ago, we all got this cryptic press release from Nikon about the D850. After receiving that press release, we were left with a lot of huge questions. Well, I'm happy to say we are here today at the Nikon school in London with the camera in hand, and I can give you a top-down overview of what the specs are and just try and answer some of those questions that have been ruminating in your minds for the last few weeks. Starting with sensor size, this camera has a 45.7 megapixel sensor, which just about matches up with, well, it wasn't hard to guess that it would be somewhere between 40 and 50. I think a lot of people were thinking around 46, and sure enough, Nikon have come through and said, yes, this is a 45.7 megapixel sensor camera. Not only does it have a 45.7 megapixel sensor, but it will shoot up to 9 frames per second. It's fast. So they weren't lying about being able to use it for sport, for action, for basically whatever you want to use it for. Let's talk about slow motion. It will film 1080p at 120 frames per second. With this camera, you can shoot completely silently. The camera itself will shoot up to 9 frames per second with the battery grip. It'll shoot 7 frames per second just straight out of the box, and up to 6 frames per second you can shoot in utter silence. So that's great for things like weddings, museums, anywhere where you just don't even want to hear a pin drop. Another neat feature of this camera is focus stacking. So where before you would have to set up a whole macro rig and a focusing rail, with this one you can take up to 300 shots and it will just move through the range of focus all the way through to infinity. You will still have to stack those photos in Lightroom afterwards or whatever your preferred photo editing software is, but that is a great new feature. For a pro level camera, you imagine you're going to be shooting all day, all night for extended periods of time. You're not just going to be whipping it out for a snap here and a snap there. This is where this next bit comes in. This camera will take 1,820 shots with the battery that's in the body just as it is out of the box. You add a grip onto that, and we're talking something like 3,600 shots. That's a full day of shooting that you're going to be able to walk around with this, and you're not going to have to cart around a charger, extra batteries, another grip, whatever it is. You can just hang this thing off your neck and you'll be good to go. You'll also be glad to know that this camera has the 153-point AF system from the D5 with the touchscreen on the back and the ability to scroll through that, pinpoint focus. It's going to make shooting macro a whole lot easier. You're going to love it. So just returning to speed very quickly. The camera straight out of the box will shoot 7 frames per second. With the grip, it'll shoot 9 frames per second. It'll shoot silently 6 frames per second. But if you're willing to sacrifice the resolution and shoot at just over 4K, 8.6 million pixels, this camera will shoot up to 30 frames per second completely silently. Time-lapse photographers are going to love this camera. Because it shoots time-lapses silently, it means there's no wear and tear on your shutter. So there's no mechanical actuation while you're shooting. And if you're shooting 1,000 frames in one time-lapse, that's definitely something you're going to want to save so that you don't end up with something like 70,000 frames or 70,000 actuations on your camera over the course of 2 or 3 months of shooting. The second thing they're going to love about this camera is it possesses the power to process 1,000 raw images in body and turn them into JPEGs in like under 10 minutes, which is astounding, and it's going to make batch processing a whole lot easier. Videographers and content creators alike will be happy to know that this camera will shoot in 4K UHD, so you can take advantage of Nikon's wide range of wide-angle lenses. Not only that, they've added focus peaking, so that you'll be able to tell exactly what's in focus while you're filming. That'll come in especially handy for those of you who like to focus manually. We know that you guys had a lot of questions about how you'll be able to store your media on the camera. What we have is an SD slot and an XQD slot, and this SD slot is UHS-2 compatible, which you're going to need for shooting in 4K anyway, so that's fabulous. Some of you will be interested to know that they have removed the inbuilt flash in favor of radio communication with Nikon's advanced lighting system, advanced wireless lighting system, and what that means is you'll be able to trigger your flash without the need for a direct line of sight. So those are the specs. We're really excited to use this new camera. Nikon have done a great job putting this package together. We're going to go and give it a try.